many tips I will give you on the path to mastery. Some nebulous while being oddly specific, like kiss your sister not, cause it'll be weird later. Uh-oh, look at that. Oh, that bird pooped on your shoulder. Now, dog it. Other tips will be more in your face and practical, like quick, flip over this big log, or its child will die. I really love that little stick, don't you? I think you should marry it. Good. Many layers to this joke.
Alright guys, series of short, quick tips that just are not long enough to really fit anywhere else, but I really wanted to get through to you guys. This will be a fun one. Lots of stuff that you can use today. Alright, the first thing is, this is simple, but just copying a clip. If I want to copy this clip, there's a bunch of different ways I could go about it, but the easiest way I believe is just to hold down the Alt key and drag this clip where you want it. And there you go. Now, that seems really simple, but there's a few keys to this to make it go right. The first thing is make sure that the front of your clip is on a boundary that you want it to be, and that the clip is starting, that there's not a bunch of space before your notes start. Because wherever you move that to, that's going to be the start of your clip. If you put it on the boundary line of the next measure, and then you have a bunch of space there, well, that space is going to play first before your notes. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we are aware of what our grid is set to. And right next to the grid, this tells you how it will move, so it will move by beat. So now that I have this here, I can move this, and you see how it's only going by beat, right? If I turn this off, this grid, you'll see it gets smooth, and I can move it wherever I want to. But this doesn't help us to lock it into place like that does. Cool deal? Okay, now that's not the only place you can use that technique. If you go into a clip, let's just look at this guy here, and let's just say I wanted to repeat this last piece here for some reason, which I don't, but we're going to just play with that for fun. I can select as many of these things as I want, or just one note. Doesn't matter how much you select, but whatever you select, just once again hit Alt, and then move it where you want it. Same thing about boundaries applies, right? Now if you go outside of your clip area here, it's going to ask you if you want to enlarge it apart or just move the thing anyway and let it hang off. Usually you want it enlarged apart so that it can fit within the part. Okay? That's it for copying stuff. That makes it real easy. Now let me just show you one other really cool trick with that. If you are working on, say, a drum line like here, and I have a bunch of kicks going. Now, usually this would be used in a hi-hat situation, right? But say I want to double those up, right? I can simply select all of them, hold Alt, and just move them right here like that. And I've essentially doubled up my kicks. Absolutely sounds horrible, but that would be really cool if I did it with a hi-hat. So there's a lot of tricks you can play just by grabbing things, holding Alt, and then moving them around. Okay? It's a great tool. I use it all the time. Super simple, super awesome. Alrighty, mini tip number 2. This is super simple. If you have this kick here, for example, and I don't like the volume, simply go down here, and this is your volume for that clip. For that note, you can change. And you can hear it as you nail down where you're looking to be, right? Pretty sweet. You can use this everywhere in any MIDI clip at all. So just realize that these are the volumes down here. Now, one other thing, if you go over here, you see that there's velocity here, right? But you can change this to be other stuff. You can see your pitch bend if there is any. I don't have any pitch bend on this, but if there was, you would see it here and be able to edit it. And all these other things as well, aftertouch, poly pressure. So be aware that that's there for you if you want to. The pitch bend is the most useful one. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, really quick, dealing with color. You can change these in a bunch of different ways. I believe I've shown them in another video, but one of the easiest and quickest ways is to come over here. You see this little box right by the piano on any one of these particular tracks? Just hold down Control and move your scroll wheel, and it makes it way easier than going up there to deal with that drop down. Right? You just find the color you like and let go, and you're good. I find this to be by far the best way to deal with that. Neat, right? Super cool. Moving on to the next one. one of the things that you can do with MIDI clips is go up here to MIDI and then look inside of this functions menu item here. And there are a bunch of different things that you can do to your notes inside of a clip programmatically. So you can see they're all good things that you could possibly need. But one of the things is fixed velocity, right? Say your velocities are crazy and maybe it's something that you just want, you want a kick drum to just have the same pressure all the time. Well, that'll make all your velocities fixed. As you can see down here, by our volumes now are all the same. I'm going to go ahead and undo that because that's not really what I want. But you can play around in this menu with, just make sure that a MIDI clip is selected. Go up here to MIDI and then look under functions. And then you can play with any of these. The fixed length is helpful sometimes. Delete overlaps. You can imagine why that would be good. Delete doubles. Once again, lots of stuff to play with in here. So remember that this is there. If there's something that you need to do with MIDI, it may be either in this menu or this functions menu. There's lots of stuff there. So go play, okay? Don't forget that your transpose setup is over here. You can change whatever's selected to whatever you need to. It's a very easy way to transpose just one clip and not everything else. And you can select multiple clips at the same time and transpose those as well. So just remember, MIDI problems, go check out this MIDI menu and see what you can find in here under functions or just right in the top of the MIDI menu. Lots of helpful stuff there. Hope that helps you out. Next tip, say you want to transpose a whole track and you want to continually transpose the whole track no matter what changes come after it, how many clips wind up in it. Well, there's an easy way to do that too. Go down here to your MIDI inserts for the track and then go here and select MIDI modifiers. And you get this crazy looking little mini dialog on the side here. And then all you got to do is change your transpose. Put your transpose up or down and that will translate that whole clip. You notice something's out of tune. That's because we are now transposed out 7 semitones down. Pretty simple, right? Good stuff. You can do all kinds of other things with the MIDI modifiers too. So definitely play around and look into that because there's a wealth of ways to modify your MIDI. Next tip. Okay, this one we call panning games for noobs. When you need to spread something out in the stereo field or make it sound wider, you don't always have to run right away looking for a plugin. Just the panning tools and more tracks themselves can really do an immense amount of cool creative things, right? Right here, these vocals, I added 3 vocals. They're all completely dry just to make my point. This is just one vocal alone. That's right, pan and magic. Now here how it sounds thin and alone, right? Let's just add one more vocal doing the exact same thing to it. It already sounds a good amount thicker, doesn't it? Let's just add one more, just see what that sounds like. Just because of the variance in the vocal, it gets even wider and thicker sounding. Now, here's where the real magic comes in. There are a gazillion ways to do what I'm doing here, and people use all kinds of techniques. So just have fun with it and figure out for yourself what kind of sounds you like. But if I play all 3 of these together, now listen what happens when I start panning these to the sides. You hear that stereo field open up? Oops, wrong one. That's not the one you want. That'll change the time of the clip. Or where it starts. Back up again. I was trying to get to this other one and move this out to the right. See how much that widens that? We didn't even do anything with any effects yet. Now if you add some effects to it, it'll get even wider. Now a lot of times you'll see something like this. They'll take the main vocal, I'm going to mute this third one, and this other one, I'm just going to pan it off to the side a little, right? Like about here. And then I'm going to lower its volume so you can barely hear it. Now this one usually would need to be louder for that. And to be a little process so you can hear it more clearly, right? This is just for demonstration. Here, when I bring that way up, now I just sink it into the mix a little bit. Hear how much wider that is? Let me mute that for this one halfway through. Hear when it went away? Hear when I brought it back? So you can play all kinds of games with panning. There are times where I've layered 6 guitars and panned them all in various ways and just made a thick wall of guitars in front of me. I can't tell you how many times I've used that technique. And it's really good for some things, you know, for really, really tough things, certainly. That's one of my favorite places to do that. One other thing is when you start panning things like this, what I recommend you do is you notice how in this second one, I panned it just short of all the way to the side. If you pull it back away from the all the way panned hard left or hard right, you're going to find it doesn't change it that much, but what it does is allows a little bit of that signal to be in the other side in case you wind up in a mono situation where nothing is lost. You can still actually hear that vocal somewhat, right? So I tend to bring, if I'm going to use 2 like that, and I'll pan one almost out as far as I can go, probably like, you know, 20% back, and the same thing for the other side. But there's no hard and fast rule. You can play so many games with this stuff, and that's the point. Infinite creativity with panning. Use it on all kinds of instruments, use it in all kinds of ways. Play, right? That's what this is. Creativity. Play your heart out. Use that panning because it's really cool. And with that, I've got one more tip for you, and it's the most important one, so we're going live today. Some of you guys are going to groan at me for this one, and some of you guys are really going to have your wheels turning to figure out what I'm saying and why. But this is the last tip for today. You need to think about your backups. Seriously, don't blow this off. Everybody does until the first time they're punched with it. And then when they get kapowed, then they want to fix it real quick when it's too late to fix it. So what you need to do is set yourself up a situation that's reflective of the situation that you're creating in. So if you're just messing around and you don't want to lose anything, it's fine to just take it back up and either put it on another drive or put it off on a DVD or something, or you can back it up to any of the gazillion services out there. Dropbox is a great one, and that's the one I use for most of my stuff, for both distributing the material I've completed and also for making sure I have backups of everything I need backups of. It's really important. And the second thing is, if what you're doing is really important, like you're making music for shows or something that you cannot lose because they will need it in the very near future, you're really best with thinking of a multi-tiered backup situation, which there's lots of ways to think about this, but at the very least, make sure that you're making a backup daily of the most important things you're working on right now. It doesn't have to be your whole entire body of work, but it just has to be the things you're working on right now, right? Those other things should already be backed up in the past, and that backup should still exist. Just make sure that you have a backup that's local and one that's non-local. In case your machine torches, in case, God forbid, I don't wish this on anyone in the universe, but your house burns down, I mean, you are still going to need your work, right? So that's why we keep an off-site backup in case anything happens horrible within where we do our work. So just make sure you know where you're at and check your backups too after you make them once or twice, right? Every once in a while, take a look at what's happening. You can schedule these things that they happen every day, that you're only backing up a certain folder, and maybe all the folders within that are all your current projects. But just have a plan, and at some point, make sure your plan works. Pretend your stuff got blown up today. Can I bring it back? And see if you can bring it back without touching any of the files that you know are there. Pretend you lost them and see if you can get back to work. Bring your backup back up, put it somewhere, load it up in Cubase and see if everything's there that you expect it there, because that's not always the case either. Sometimes your audio files might not make it. You might have gotten the project file if this is all foreign to you, and you might have missed all the clips that you needed to go with that project file. A project file on its own is absolutely useless unless there's no recording in it. You're not going to be able to do anything with just that. So you have to make sure that all your audio clips are backed up as well. So this is something that you really, really need to look into and make sure you got straight, okay? I hope this video really helped you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. calypso. It might be the end, so I don't care too much. Still got my pajamas and my Jose Cuervo, but not too much, so I can zoom on my meetings on time. Apocalypso, it might be the end, so I don't care too much. Still got my pajamas and my Jose Cuervo, but not too much, so I can zoom on my meetings fine.